In the West, religion is no longer God. Big Pharma is your God. Celebrities are your disciples. Put down your books, pick up your smartphone, and then you'll just have your opinions downloaded directly into your brain. Like Pfizer's official account. You might have seen this video make the rounds a couple of weeks ago or whenever it was bouncing around the most. Like, it was all over everybody's feed all the time for very good reasons. No, the message itself is complete ass. And, he's just, it's hilarious when John Legend is not being cucked by his awful wife, Chrissy Teigen. I was about to switch them back and forth. She's just an atrocious human being. And he gets cucked by Big Pharma. Oh, Lord. For John Legend, there's nothing better than being a dad and enjoying special moments with his family. That's why he considers his health a top priority and why he's got an updated booster. His eligible family members got theirs too. Learn more here. And yeah, that video was seen by 17.6 million people right now. And they turned off replies. Fucking lol. But you take a look at the rest of that stuff as well. Quote tweeted just about 8,000 times. 375 retweets and 976 likes. 17 million plays. 17 million views. Sorry, 3 million views on the video. Nobody's buying this anymore. It's like I've never found myself in a tough point in my life and ever wondered, oh Lord, at this crossroad of my life, what would John Legend do? Interesting. And another thing that I'm wondering as well, like I've never been in that same spot as well and wondered what Michael Phelps thinks. Well, I'm also wondering if the check cleared on this one because he's got it right in the first line, #ad. Bought and paid for by Big Pharma. Like, what's the rest in this slideshow? Oh, some girls playing soccer. Bro, he's the most accomplished Olympic athlete, at least the most accomplished swimmer of all time. I don't know what those two pictures have anything to do with getting the jab or not, but hey man, that's what you bought, paid for, that's what you get. I've been working on something that I can finally share with you. It wasn't until recently that I learned my struggle with depression puts me at high risk for severe COVID-19. Sorry, what? Your risk of depression. Michael Phelps, struggle with depression. Anybody hear about that beforehand? Like him on the come up back when he was just beating the brakes off of everybody in the pool. No talk about depression. Talk about recreational drug use, but outside of that, who's talking about that? Oh, but right, this is an ad. You can't take any of this seriously. Taking care of my health is so important to me. That's why you've never done one of these paid ads before. Okay. It makes me a better dad, husband, son, and friend. That's why I'm partnering with Pfizer to encourage people to know what risk factors could put them at a high risk for getting very sick from the coof. Oh, there are some things that I would love to say, but we're on YouTube, an open and honest and free platform. More of my base takes when it comes to all of this nonsense over on Rumble, where we can actually have a conversation about that. And I have a much more colorful term that I like to use when it comes to the jab. That's all right. I'm sure that'll all soon very much come to an end because, oh boy, this is about the worst thing that I've seen come around in a long time. Biden administration negotiates a deal to give the WHO authority over U.S. pandemic policies. Now I'm just trying to think, just running back and forth. It's like, okay, what would be the benefit of this and what are the negatives? The negatives, do we even need to waste the time in elaborating everything that's wrong with this situation, but to just try to see it from the other side with a non-malicious take on it. If the Biden administration is actually trying to work in service of the American people, oh, I almost got that out without chuckling, but if they're trying to do something good that's out there, what would be the benefit of affording all of these powers to the World Health Organization, who's always just been so open and honest, from things like dealing with a pandemic to simple geography like what is Taiwan? It's like a leftist trying to define what is a woman. It's whatever you want it to be, or whatever China ultimately tells us to do. But okay, the only thing that really comes to mind when I think, okay, affording all of these policies, just having a blanket pandemic policy decided on by the WHO, it's how everybody else in the world would respond to pandemics. Just having a unified response, then what you're sending out where, how much is going where. Like, it makes sense from that point of view, but then also a pandemic policy response, it should probably be more curtailed to the people within inside your own borders instead of some globalist takeover. But that could also be why they're doing this. But let's take a look. Biden administration is preparing to sign the United States to a legally binding accord with the World Health Organization that would give the Geneva-based United Nations Health Agency, the authority to dictate American policies during a pandemic. Not just the pandemic, a pandemic, the next one after that. Despite widespread criticism of the WHO's response to the coup, U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra, who's done such a good job. He's as good as HHS Secretary as Pete Buttigieg is at being Transportation Secretary. Just a real banger of a job. Joined the WHO Director General Tedros names in September 2022 to announce the U.S. WHO Strategic Dialogue. Together, they developed a platform to maximize the long-standing U.S. WHO partnership and to protect and promote the health of the people around the globe, including the American people. That's what you want to hear first and foremost. The U.S. and the WHO get in bed together, and yeah, we're worried about the people of the world, and the Americans, I guess, they're part of it. Whatever, man, it really doesn't much matter. It's just globalist scum at work. I want to see a centralized vaccine and medication-based response. Great, you've got a pandemic, which could be a multitude of different things, but the first thing that you're trying to do is to force more pills down people's throat. Who's also benefiting from this? Probably the same people who are marketing celebrities who are supposed to be your new idols in society. Andrew Tate deserves to be in prison, but you listen to a cuck and a burnout. Okay. World Health Assembly is a rulemaking body of the WHO comprised of representatives from member states. Great, another unelected body that just gets to tell you what you have to do with your body. Both initiatives are fatally dangerous. Francis Boyle, professor of international law at the University of Illinois College of Law, told the Epoch Times either one or two would set up a worldwide medical police state under the control of the WHO and in particular WHO Director Tedros. Great, fantastic. He's a good man anyways. If either one or both of these goes through, Tedros or his successor will be able to issue orders that will go all the way down the pipe to your primary care physicians. Yes, because that's what we want. Globalist edicts taken all the way down to the local level. What could possibly go wrong? Because there's absolutely no difference between Jackson, Wyoming and Beijing. No difference at all with the demography, nothing at all. Now, everything that works there will work there as well. Just shut your mouth. But at least this is making waves somewhere. Republicans push back against accord giving WHO power over U.S. pandemic response. I'm glad they're not going to be going down without a fight because realistically, I can see why they want to do this, but it does make sense why they want to do this, okay? As member states of the WHO prepare to gather in Switzerland next week to negotiate the final terms of the accord that will give the WHO centralized authority over U.S. policy in the case of a pandemic, Republican senators are pushing back with an effort to reinforce congressional power to authorize treaties. Yeah, isn't that probably in the Constitution? Like the executive branch can't circumvent the legislative branch. I think that's probably in the Constitution, but asking Biden to read at 80 years old, that's just far too much. The draft accord, which would be legally binding on all 194 member nations, give the WHO the authority to declare pandemics and submits member countries to a central role of the WHO as the directing and coordinating authority on international health work. Great, fantastic. In areas like lockdowns, treatments, medical supply chain surveillance, and disinformation and false news. Oh, great. You think that it's only going to apply to pandemics, or if they just want to go ahead and declare anything a pandemic, then all of a sudden, oh yeah, we can censor you. What is that supposed to do about health and treatment? No, you just shut up. That's the disinformation. Disingenuous hacks. 17 U.S. senators, led by Ron Johnson, yeah, buddy, introduced the No WHO Pandemic Preparedness Treaty Without Senate Approval Act. Should make it wordier and longer. But hey, man, it's pretty direct exactly. What do you hope to do with this piece of legislation? Tell the WHO to get bent. Oh, okay, great, fantastic. On February 15th, which states that the pandemic accord must be deemed a treaty, thus requiring the consent of a supermajority of the Senate, which is 2/3, 67 senators, and good goddamn luck getting that. Legislation comes as the WHO gears up to the present and what it calls the zero draft of the accord negotiated with the help of U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra to all all member nations on February 27th to agree to final terms. Oh, great. Fantastic. Other sponsors of the bill include Chuck Your Asses Grassley, Bill Haggerty, John Barrasso, Mike Lee, based, Marsha Blackburn, temporarily based, Rick Scott, he's doing better, Rick Hoven, all right, Marco, Lil Marco, Ted Cruz, Steve Daines, Tom Tillis, weird, Tom Cotton, Mike Braun, Tommy Tuberville, Roger Marshall, and Katie Britt. Some people you'd expect, others, well, at least it's good to see the establishment on the side of, can you guys not be globalists for a second? Okay, that's a good development. WHO, along with federal health agencies, failed miserably in the response to the coup. Senator Johnson stated, no, he spoke fact right there. This failure should not be rewarded with a new international treaty, which would increase the WHO's power at the expense of the American sovereignty. But some doubt this bill, even if approved, would stop the WHO accord from going into effect once Joe Biden signs it. With all due respect to the sponsoring senators, this will not do the trick. Oh, the reason, he said, is that the WHO accord is drafted specifically to circumvent the Senate approval process. Yo, isn't it funny how Joe Biden said a long time ago, back when he was campaigning, he would say that Trump is a tyrant that likes to legislate from his office. So funny that he said that he would be the opposite of that. It remains unclear if the Biden administration will need Senate approval for the WHO accord to go into effect. The accord itself states that it will become effective and legally binding on member states provisionally as soon as it gets signed and before any national legislatures approve it. Yo, man. If they can get away with doing this stuff, what else can they try to push? Because, yeah, this is just on the WHO, but what's above the WHO? The UN. So this would, by the way, give the roadmap to have any globalist policies enshrined into law. I guess you could look at it and it's like, okay, so America just wants to be at the head of the table when it comes to making these globalist decisions. They just only see one way out of this dystopian hellhole, and they'd have a pretty good claim to the throne, I guess. Currently, the United States is the largest contributor to the WHO at $6.72 billion budget. Remember when Trump was like, you know, at WHO, you could take it, you could take your little stupid organization, you could take it, you could go to hell. Nobody wants you here. He cut off the WHO, but what was one of Joe Biden's first executive orders? No, we're going back to it, pal. Of which $1.25 billion is for health emergencies. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is the second largest donor to the WHO, contributing 9% of its budget in 2021. Interesting, too. And then China is third. So is this going to be the big fight over the summer? Great. Before the WHO can declare what, racism or climate change the next pandemic, you bet your ass it's going to be one of the next two pandemics that are going to be out there. Then we'll get bogged down in the legalese, and hey, Supreme Court might need to step in on this one, and then that'll give more impetus for Biden to want to pack the court before anything can happen in 2024. Oh, we're about to head into a political hailstorm for the next 18 months, so this is just the first step along a very, very, very treacherous road. So strap in or strap on. It's about to get bumpy. With all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.